What is Helldivers 2? Helldivers 2 is a third-person PvE squad-based shooter in which you kill bugs or automatons in an attempt to liberate the planet for Super Earth. You complete objectives, kill enemies, and extract and liberate the planet. Don't worry too much about the lore, it doesn't impact the game all that much, and largely just influences the memes and its community. You can still enjoy the game if you don't understand any of this stuff or have zero interest in it. Now, who am I? My name is Tim, or TheTacoTim, and I've been an avid gamer since I was incredibly young. I've been gaming most of my life, and I've been intimately intertwined with the community, and watched many games succeed and many games fail. Helldivers 2 is a unique situation from what I've seen so far, and I want to talk a little bit about what's it's doing different, what's going on, and maybe provide some insight from the industry that I think is worth noting. So first thing's the price. Game's $40. The $40 is lower than the typical $60 to $70 per game that we see, and those games include typically a lot of microtransactions. $40 is nice because it's an easier investment, and that's what it is. It's an investment in entertainment. If you're paying $40 for a game and you don't enjoy as much as you thought versus paying $70 for a game you don't enjoy it as much, there's a much bigger risk associated with the $70 game. That and I wanted to spend $40 for a video game. Next is the gameplay. The first thing I have to address is ragdolls. Ragdolls in any game makes it way better, especially if they're extremely wild. The next is an easy gameplay loop. I mean, it's not too complicated. You drop, kill, do objectives, and then go back to orbit. And you also get the liberal use of artillery. I can't imagine a game where you can drop airstrikes constantly or orbital bombardments constantly and not have fun. There's a plug-and-play aspect for other players, as I like to call it, where players can join and leave at a moment's notice, and there's minimal loss, which is samples and potential XP for completing the mission. And having players just randomly join you, or have your friends randomly join you, is typically a factor that, like in Tarkov, when you load into a raid, you have a set amount of teammates. If somebody dies, they're done for the rest of the raid. In Lethal Company, after you start the game, if somebody disconnects, in order to get them back, you have to go back to the lobby, get them back in, and then restart again. And in this case, you can just, it doesn't matter if you're in the lobby, it doesn't matter if you're in the game, you have to dip, you lose power, you're not really losing that much. Or if somebody's struggling with the mission, you can just drop right in mid-mission through and start to help them. One thing that's interesting is that death doesn't leave you feeling bad. They give you a decent amount of reinforcements at lower difficulties. I can't attest anything above the challenging difficulty because I haven't played that, but I know that challenging and below, you're getting 20 plus reinforcements depending on how many people are in the game. So when you die, just pick up your samples you dropped, pick up your weapons. Those are the only things that drop when you die, and carry on as if nothing happened. And in the cases that you do die, it's usually due to like one of three things. Most prominent one, friendly fire. You're going to get killed by your teammates a lot due to airstrikes, orbital bombardments, grenades, just getting shot. There's a whole plethora of ways it can happen. It just kind of happens, and it's honestly funny in most cases. The second one is usually getting jumped. There's a little bit of situational awareness you have to have. If a whole horde of bugs is able to walk up behind you and jump you, you're probably going to die if you can't react properly. But again, if you die, it's not a big deal. Just drop back down, kill those bugs, get your stuff, and then move on as if nothing happened. Or in my favorite case, making a final stand if you can't get to the extraction in time, or there's just way too many enemies that you're going to get overrun as a team. Letting everybody else run away and making a final stand, which, I mean, inherently leaves some satisfaction to the player. Even if you die in a last stand, you know that just the effort that takes leaves some satisfaction in itself that you did your job and stalled just a little bit. Another thing that they do interesting is the quote-unquote battle pass. This gets to the monetization aspect of the game a little bit. It is $40. There is a battle pass, a free one, and then there is a paid battle pass. The paid battle pass requires super credits. Now, you can pay for super credits in the in-game store. However, you can also just play the game, and if you hit secondary objectives, you're going to inherently be getting super credits, in which case you can just earn the paid battle pass yourself. And the nice thing about the battle pass, which are called requisitions in-game, is that they stay. It's not the predatory behavior of typical battle passes like Fortnite, Call of Duty Warzone, or anything like that. The requisition shows up, it's going to stay, and they took a play out of Halo Infinite's book, where it's just, you can go back, revisit it at any given time, and you can just work through that. That way you're not losing out on cosmetics, you don't have that FOMO of, you know, oh, I want that cosmetic, and I don't want to have to sit there and grind the game for excessive amounts of time to get it. It just, you can take your own pace at it and just play the game as you wish. The next thing that's a little different is the culture of the game. The game is built off satire inherently, and so like it comes off as like this, ooh, democracy only, and like, oh, I have to go to war and sacrifice myself for, you know, Super Earth, which is just a whole bunch of countries together on Earth that makes Super Earth. And like the entire thing is satire. Like, if you've ever watched the movie Starship Troopers, and that's actually being referenced a lot because of this game, and it's getting back on the charts, It's built similarly to that. You're part of a war effort, and you're part of a group and a community that, you know, is partaking in a global effort. But at the same time, like, it's kind of memey at the same time. Like, you can fuck around and have fun, you know? The next thing is the war effort. Now, it is a global effort by the community to partake in the wars. So the individual planets, for every mission you complete, you're contributing to a fraction of a percent for quote-unquote liberating the planet. The more players that are working on a planet, the faster it's liberated to move on to the next sector. Over time, there are major orders and in-game events that, you know, planets you might have taken over get retaken over by the enemy. So it's a perpetual conflict that doesn't actually end or have a resolution, but you're constantly working towards this effort to contribute. And there's also an inherent sense of community with the other players that's actually really unique. In the case of Valorant, you have like the Edators. There's a very specific community. You have the people that are really good. You have people that, you know, main certain characters. And you kind of have to get used to that community a bit. In the case of Tarkov, and I bring up Tarkov so much because I avidly play Tarkov, a lot of the community is based on information and, frankly, complaining about the game and things that the developers are doing. And it's very much so a different vibe. Like, if you're there for information, how to get an edge up in the game and perform against other people, you're going to inherently have a completely different situation. Like in the case of COD, Call of Duty is an individuals game, and yes, you can play with your buddies, but there's no larger sense of community. And there might be an exception for like Warzone or pro players, or I'm sure there's respective communities in Call of Duty, but largely the casual player is not going to experience that. With Helldivers, that's not the case. You're thrust immediately into the community in the tutorial, you know, as you play the game. It's hard to not be a part of the community unless you're one of the people that just goes, ooh, popular game, I hate this. Like, it's incredibly easy to get sucked into it, and it's a lot. It's why it's so easy to have fun, because you have that sense of community, you have that sense of belonging, even if you're not putting any effort into, you know, making memes or making propaganda posters, as some people have done. You can partake as much as you want. You just have fun with it. One thing I mentioned before is there is a global effort. Each mission itself contributes to the liberation of a planet. So each mission you feel like you're contributing just a little bit. And in the cases of like new events and major orders, it keeps the players engaged in the war effort and ultimately prolongs the life of the game. But I mean, you're working towards a conflict resolution that doesn't actually exist, but at the same time, you're having fun in the process. It's not about the end goal that you reach, it's about the process of getting there. Something else that's a little bit different about the game, and I've touched on this already, is the nature of its game and the community. Now, the game is largely PvE, which has inherently removed toxicity, and that was actually mentioned by the CEO that they're not going to be enabling PvP pretty much ever. It's not like a for sure they're never going to add it, but they're like, for this foreseeable future, we're not going to. And there's a reason for that. PvP games are inherently toxic because they become competitive, and it's an us versus them with other members of the community. Since we're all part of the same team, all part of, you know, the Super Earth team, all part of the Helldivers, it becomes natural to want to support other players who might be struggling with missions or trying to learn the game. The game is inherently pretty simple, so it's pretty easy to teach new players. In Tarkov, there's what we have Sherpas, or tutors in the game. And the comparison between a game like Tarkov versus Helldivers, the Sherpa burden is massive in Tarkov. You spend months teaching people how to play a game, and there's still stuff that they don't know. In the case of Helldivers, it's not too complicated in the sense of just like get in the hell pod, pick, you know, these specific ones that might be better suited for your play style, and then shoot bugs or automatons, and then you're good. Granted, there's some other stuff you can learn, and there's things to inherently make you better at the game, but like it's not a requirement for having fun in the game. One thing that's also different too is that there is planned new content that is frequent. It is a live service game, and I'm not really a huge fan of like trickle feeding people content like Destiny 2 does. But this is new content in the sense not of a story, but there's going to be new biomes, there's going to be new enemies, weapons, planets, cosmetics, and also the major orders do direct the flow of the game a bit. So like right now we're in a fight from invasion from the automatons who have taken over a couple planets, so we have to defend them, and there are rewards that pay out if we succeed. But the new content isn't trickle fed in a way that's frustrating. It makes you excited for, I believe the report said every other Thursday, they're adding new content. It makes you look forward to those Thursdays and go, okay, what else can I do to exterminate bugs in a new way? What new bugs do I have to exterminate? What new automatons? What different planets do I have to go to help with the war effort? It makes you think about it a little bit, and it gets you excited for it, as new content should. It's not a case of, again, like Destiny 2, where you sit there and go, oh boy, what's the story that I'm going to get this time? You go, wow, that was like a crumb. Like, I wanted a little bit more of a crumb. It's not fulfilling if you're getting fed crumbs over a period of time. Now, I did touch on a lot of the upsides for the game, and I'm sure you're probably sitting there like, Tim, that sounds like you're just dick riding. I mean, I am a little bit, because it is a fun game. I enjoyed it, and it's not frustrating to play. It's not a frustrating experience to go against other players and go, wow, it's the netcode. Wow, it's because I'm lagging. Wow, it's because they're better than me, or there's just no life in the game. You don't have that with a PvE game. So inherently, there's more satisfaction in playing it, and I have a better time. Now, granted, I am going to address some downsides to the game because first one's the probably most prominent known about the game. It's popular, devastatingly so. Helldivers 1 peaked at 30,000 concurrent players, and I believe right now it's sitting at 450,000 on Steam, roughly. It's probably higher than that at the time of recording. And from a game dev and logistics side, it is impossible to expect that. It's incredibly risky to try to expect that, so feasibly it would not happen. And the team's been incredibly transparent that they're doing the best that they can. So just bear in mind, and the CEO said this too, that you can wait to buy the game. You're not missing out on anything. The war effort's an ever-changing landscape. And so the only thing you're really missing out is having a good time with your friends, which I would highly recommend playing with friends if you can. Solo is enjoyable, but it's definitely way more enjoyable. It's like Lethal Company in the sense that if you play by yourself, you get some enjoyment. But if you're playing with your friends, you have way better of a time. Like the CEO said, you know, you don't have to buy it right now. And I'm sure there's a lot of FOMO. I get that. But you can wait to play. Now, if you wait to the end of the video, I do have a way to get around the server queue issue. So stay tuned for that. And with server issues comes a queue, like I mentioned. Currently, you meet a server full error, and then you have to sit there and hope you get into the lottery of, you know, passing through the queue, which can be frustrating. You pay $40 for a game, and then you sit there and wait for hours to even play it. I'd be frustrated too. I totally get it. I've had to sit there in the queue for countless hours at this point, and I would personally say it's worth the wait. And there's also some issues with, you know, some missions not being paid out due to server issues. Some people are disconnecting after waiting through the queue. I can imagine that's incredibly frustrating. I haven't run into that personally, but I know some people are. And it's just various stuff like that. They're trying to work on the stability of the game, and with every single passing day, it's been getting better. The upside is the team is handling it, and they are trying to be transparent about the steps that they're taking. To my knowledge, the CEO reported there was like 4 people working on the development of the game, so they're trying to balance between working on the game and bringing new people on to help. So they're doing their best that they can. And in time, I'm sure it'll be stable as the hype dies down a little bit and it's more manageable to handle. I'm sure it'll get a lot better. Like, there's no doubt about that. At least from what I've seen from these devs, they will stick to that where they're trying to get people to actually be able to play the game. Another thing that's been a little shaky is that apparently it uses nprotect game card anti-cheat, which is a kernel level anti-cheat. I don't quite understand the reasoning behind a kernel level anti-cheat for a game like this. So like Valorant has one that's a kernel level anti-cheat. And with the competitive scene and the money that's able to be made from that, I kind of get it. I can kind of understand it. I don't really like kernel level anti-cheats, but at this time and age, they're pretty prevalent, I feel like. I just don't see the point for a PvE co-op game, I guess. There's some people that are cheating, and there's been some cheated lobbies, but from what I've been able to tell, there's been a very like minimal amount of that. Something to keep in mind too. And I believe the nprotect also has a relatively sketchy past, or there's been some scandals with data privacy. Personally, I don't see that as an issue. I don't have anything to hide on my computer, and like the chances of anything happening to me because of this kernel level anti-cheat are incredibly low. Like feasibly, like it's not going to be in the forefront of my mind. One thing that is wrong with the anti-cheat though is apparently, and I don't know how credible these statements are, apparently a large number of crashes are attributed to the anti-cheat and are caused by the anti-cheat. Again, I don't know how credible those statements are. I'll leave you with that. Just something that I have saw in a couple of reviews for the game. So just take that with a grain of salt. One thing about the game too is it's inherently online. So to contribute to the war effort, unfortunately, that means you have to be connected to the servers and connected to the internet in some way, shape, or form in order to play. That means there is no offline mode, at least at the moment of this recording. And I'm unsure if there's any plans to implement some sort of offline mode anytime soon. I know right now, again, they're working on the stability of the servers, and that's their primary concern. If any of the devs are watching this, it'd be great to get some insight if there's an offline mode, because I know some people do care about that. Personally, I don't. I'm perpetually online, and I typically am when I'm playing games, so it's not an issue for me, but it is something to keep in mind if you're wanting to play by yourself offline. That's not going to be something you can do. And unfortunately, that's just the norm across most multiplayer games in this day and age that are live service. Now, for the people that have been waiting, like I said, there's server issues, there's queue issues. It's a hard time getting into the game. It's a hard time staying in the game. What you can do is what I call smuggling. Personally, what I've done is we close the game. I know that's going to be really controversial because you've been sitting here waiting for hours. Close the game. And if you have any friends on your Steam list or PlayStation list that are actively in the game, try to join on them. Like right-click, join game. And it'll let you join their game. It'll let you get past the queue. And even if they have a full lobby, it should go, oh shit, this is full. Let me kick you back to your own ship, and you just bypass the server issues. That's something I was able to get working yesterday as of February 20th. Whenever you're watching this video, I can't guarantee that that's going to still work. I know they're doing a server cap at some point. I know that they're going to have an AFK timer at some point soon. So I mean, even if you're watching this a week from now or a week from recording, it could be completely different. But this is, if you're watching this relatively soon after I post this video, you can go ahead and use that to some benefit. So that's pretty much all I have this time. This is my first video essay, so I appreciate you stopping by and watching my video. Feel free to leave a comment down below what you think about the game, or if any insight you have into why it's successful that you think I may have missed. I'll be trying to reply to any and all comments as much as I can, unless this video gets absolutely swarmed and I possibly can't reply to all of them. And if you enjoyed the video or just liked hearing me talk, feel free to subscribe, drop a like. I'll make more videos of this if you guys like it. And I also have video editing services available. I specialize in short form content. If you'd like to hire me, feel free to reach out on Twitter or Discord at TheTacoTim. Links will be in the description, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.